So welcome everyone to round 2 of Speaker Idol for 2015. Oh, photo op, aren't they adorable? Sit down, you two. I am Denny Cherry and Associates Consulting, based out of San Diego, California. If I turn my clicker back on, it helps. There we go. Do make sure your cell phones are off. General rule, I get to answer any cell phones that ring, and then I hand it to Mark Sims to talk to whoever's on the other end.
You get a very different presentation today.
Yeah, and we'll give him a microphone too, so we can all hear it. So today's format, same as it was last year, same as it was yesterday. Each one of our lovely presenters is going to get 5 minutes to do their thing for us. After that, the judges are going to give them some feedback as to how they did. At the end of the hour and some odd minutes, our judges will pick a winner for this afternoon. They will also pick a runner-up as well. Friday afternoon, a whole 15 minutes after the third winner is picked, we will have our finals round. And there, the 3 winners will compete again, head-to-head, as well as one of the 3 runners-up that the judges will be picking in the 15 minutes between the 2 sessions. And hopefully they can come to an agreement of some sort in 15 minutes. Format Friday is exactly the same. Only big difference is at the end of Friday afternoon's final session, the winner does not have to compete again. Instead, they get a session at the 2016 PASS Summit. They also get the wonderful feeling of 12 months of panic while they figure out what they're going to present on and how they're going to do and whether or not they deserve to be speaking, which they do. They also get a couple hours of free training from a gentleman named Omar Rivas, who is the husband of a Microsoft employee. He's a professional speaking trainer. So he's going to give a couple hours of feedback to you over the phone, so you don't like you have to fly up here or anything, so it's kind of cool. Obviously, you get bragging rights for absolutely destroying 11 of your closest friends on stage and on camera in front of the entire audience of PASS. And you get this awesome logo to present on your blog so that everybody knows that you threw down and won. So our judges for today is the always beautiful Mark Sims from Microsoft, Joey Diatoni, Alan Hurt, Andre Common, and Hope Foley. Our speakers today, we actually only have 3. One had to back out due to a family emergency. We have Rob Volk. Amy could not make it, so I didn't feel it was right to pull her out of the slide deck, but at least she's here in spirit. Hopefully whatever family emergency came up is not that bad, and she's able to rejoin us next year. We have Bill Wolf, and then we have Wes Springob. I forgot to ask you how to pronounce it. I'm good? Okay, cool. I wasn't sure how close I got on that, and I meant to ask. So Rob, come on up. You are our first contestant. Yeah. Can I make that reach? Yeah, maybe. Bad judge, no power.
Sorry, I was just presenting.
Yeah, you should have been plugged in for the last 2.5 hours while you were presenting your half-day session. So Rob Volk, he has been a SQL Server DBA since version 6.5 and even some older databases. He is one of the organizers of the very, very large Atlanta SQL Saturday. He also blogs on SQLteam.com. His Twitter account is SQLR. He works for a very crazy company in Atlanta, and he likes to do very, very strange things with SQL Server. So with that, I'll flip slides, and Rob, it's all yours.
Hello, everyone. How's that? Good. Thank you for attending Speaker Idol in 2015. My name is Rob Volk, as Denny told you, and today I'm going to irritate you with Unicode in SQL Server. Hopefully you will take this advice and go back to your developers and be able to irritate them with Unicode if you are a DBA, and if you're a developer, you can further irritate your DBA with Unicode. I'll show you how you can use Unicode to duplicate objects in your database. I'll also show you invisible objects in your database. How are they invisible, you wonder? The magic of Unicode. Other reasons that Unicode can actually cause problems in your computer systems outside of SQL Server, just in case you're not aware. I'll let you in on a couple interesting topics that came up recently. But before I get into that, more slides, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So those of you, you've heard of the AdventureWorks company, the AdventureWorks database. I really enjoy the AdventureWorks company. I keep multiple copies of their database around. Makes me feel better. I enjoy them so much. I also like to name all my tables in Joy. I also really enjoy naming all the columns in Joy. It's just a great word, very enjoyable. And when you see that much joy in the world, it just makes you feel better, especially about AdventureWorks. They're a great company. But you may not feel like really having that many same names around or anything like that. So you might just decide, hey, why put a label on anything? Don't put them into unreasonable expectations. Just let them choose their own name at a later time. So that's an option for you as well. And to go into a little more detail on how this is done, so the Unicode character set is a 2-byte character set. It supports multiple alphabets, multiple languages, and it overcomes some of the limitations with a single-byte character set. But in doing that, it allows you to have, say, a different alphabet like the Greek alphabet, the Cyrillic alphabet, and these are alphabets that are similar or have some similar characters as far as the Latin alphabet that we all know and love. So, for instance, the A character and the Greek letter alpha and the Cyrillic A all use the same letter. That's the Cyrillic V, that's the Greek letter beta, and so on. So I constructed this chart instead of doing work one day, because I'm not closely supervised there. So I saved you the time of having to put this together yourself. You can just download the slide or email me and I can send it to you. One of the other features of Unicode is because it supports other languages, not all of them are written from left to right, like we're used to. Some of them are written from right to left, like Arabic and Hebrew. And that's how some of these duplicates were done here. Show you very briefly, and put up a new query here. So you'll see an AdventureWorks here, but I'll drag it over, and it turns into Adventure Scroll. There is a character in there, which hopefully, if this renames correctly, if I backspace over it, and that was the wrong way, but basically you'd see the letters reverse, and it would look like Adventure Scroll in the Object Explorer. There's a couple other variations on that. This one, I believe, is Scro Rut Nevda. So that's what it looks like in the query window. But if you query the tables here, they're all rendered differently depending on which query window you're in. So they all look like AdventureWorks here. And then if I copy them over here, you'll see that they all look different. And that's what they really look like. Last part. Come on. So a couple days ago, Mr. John Martin, Mr. SQL Server Monkey, sent me this link that someone has decided to use this interesting Greek question mark character. This doesn't look so much like a question mark character as it looks like, shall we say, a semicolon. So I have a real semicolon there and the Greek semicolon, or the question mark that looks like a semicolon. And the interesting thing is you might be able to tell that that's red there. And if I run this, even though it looks like a semicolon, it's not, it fails. So this utility actually can replace all the semicolons in your developer's C# code. And they will go a little bizarre, a little nuts, trying to figure out what went wrong with their machine. I'll leave you with this one because I can't actually show you the not safe for work characters in the United States. They love this in the UK, however. But if anyone's interested, I can send you that script as well. Just in case you do get lost, you will be able to pick these up through IntelliSense SQL prompt and through the system views. They'll render correctly, as you saw with that systables query. And you can find out more about Unicode through Redgate's book on team-based deployment development practices. They go over international teams and Unicode support. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rob. The judgy table. Mark, we'll let you go first.
Okay, I can use a microphone. Good. Overall, you're a horrible human being, and I have a great degree of admiration. One thing I would like to see is tighten up the story you were going to tell, because there was a lot of concepts there in the beginning. Is it I'm going to show you horrible things you can do, and then a way to back out of that? Or is it, we're just going to have some fun? Both are equally valid, but I just wasn't sure which way you were going with that. And there were a number of times when there was a lot of text on the slide that would have been really great to be reinforced with a picture or some form of visual metaphor, like show a Unicode page table and stay away from the eye charts. Because that was a beautiful Unicode chart, but I'm only 20 feet away. I'm like, wow, I am old and blind.
Yeah, that was my main feedback. And I've seen that slide before, and it's hard. It's kind of hard to see from the room, but it was a little harder today, and maybe glare. But I think it would be cool if you just zoomed in on a couple of the characters you're talking about specifically in the slide.
Yeah, I got nothing. So what they said, I thought that I enjoyed the humor, and there was something where it didn't quite go as expected, and you rolled with the punches on it, and just you handled it very well. So good job.
Couple of small things. So in the beginning, you had on your slide where you said you were talking about duplicate objects and invisible objects, but on your slide you had invisibility. So again, just when you're setting up a concept and you explain something, you should sort of use the same terminology everywhere, just so it match it right. I thought you recovered, again from the demo, really well. There was one time where you started talking about something, but there's no corresponding information on a slide behind it. So I wasn't sure. Again, I got what you were saying, but there's nothing, and then you went to the chart. So I know I'm guilty of doing that sometimes, but it's always better, even if you're talking to something, that you have the basic concepts on the slide so people can at least, like, for the take home later. And and I also noticed later in this slides you had the Meddling Kids title, right? It's obviously a Scooby-Doo reference, not universal, and you didn't sort of introduce it. It was just there. Again, I got the humor, but not always translatable. But overall, really good job.
So besides all the comments here, I've seen this one before. You did a lightning talk in Dublin where I was a jury member, and I saw this. This was nice. I was in a session at this conference, and I'm not going to say who or what, but there were 3 presenters, and none of them brought equipment. They started 30 minutes late. They finished 15 minutes early. All their demos failed. You should have been on that stage, not them. Good done. Well done.
Good job, man.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Rob. So next we have William Wolf. He didn't send me too many bio points.
Switch the slide. I can.
Oh, he has a better slide. If it'll switch to it.
One. I'm on one.
Oh, you're on one.
Gonna make your life harder.
You're tricking me, yeah. I'll let you introduce yourself then, and then you can start. Because I haven't seen the slide.
That'll work. My name's Bill Wolf. I'm the manager of SQL Server Performance Tuning at RDX. Been in DBA for 15 years, 10 SQL, 5 Oracle, concentration in performance tuning. I am SQLWerewolf.com, and I did have to put this up here. If you guys look over here to the second row, I have a wolf pack. So I will begin. Again, I'm going to talk about non-sargable anti-patterns. Sargable stands for search argumentable. This is the ability to seek an index efficiently and retrieve the data we want as quickly as possible. I'm going to go over some non-sargable anti-patterns and what these do. These will cause index scans. Very hard work for SQL Server. We're making SQL Server work hard. We want SQL Server to be able to be lazy, not work very hard. Now for this, I am going to do a demo. I'm going to do my demos to show the non-sargable query and the sargable query. I need audience participation. This is where this is going to come in. I'm going to say a word, and I'm going to need 3 words in response. I'm going to say searching, and I want you all to say seek and destroy. All right? So we're going to practice this once. Search in. Seek and destroy. Thank you. We'll jump right into the demos. So the first thing I want to show is I have a query going against the person table, last name like myth and last name like SME. The last name like SME has no wildcard in the front of it. So we'll go ahead and run this query. And what we're going to show here is for the last name like myth, we have 108 logical reads on the table. For the last name like SME, we only have 4. Our second query is much more sargable, and when we go to the execution plan, we're going to see that for a last name like myth, we have an index scan, and for the last name like SME, we have an index seek, so we are searching. Thank you. Let's work with me here, huh? All right, so the next thing I want to show is very similar. We'll go to another query. This is for a substring function on the last name. We're looking for the first character to be W. You can do this through a substring function, or we can use a like statement. Now, the substring function requires each record, last name, to be passed through this function to evaluate the result to see if it equals to W. So we'll go ahead and we'll run this query, and we'll take a look at the results. So again, we're going to show with the substring function here, we have 108 logical reads for the substring function. For the like W, we have 8 logical reads. We go to the execution plan, and we'll show that we have an index scan for the substring function, and for the like, we have an index seek. So when we're seeking, we want to search in. Thank you. The reason this happens is a B-tree index. When you do the like statement with no wildcard in the front, it gives SQL Server a starting point for the B-tree index. Therefore, you get an index seek. I'm going to go over one more example here. We have a lovely function there, modified date, converting to a varchar and back to date time to look for a specific day. That's just ugly. Going against the sales order detail in large table, and then a more appropriate way to write this is to do a modified date greater than or equal to 7/27/2008 and less than 7/28/2008. We'll run this query. This is going to take a moment. This is against the enlarged tables. When we look at the messages, the statistics IO, we have a 9 scan count with over 65,000 logical reads. When we do the modified date greater than or equal to, we have only 1 scan with 40 logical reads. We go to the execution plans, and again, we will see for the conversion, we have an index scan. Along with that, you will see we have parallelism. This is a quite expensive query. For the greater than or equal to, we again have an index seek, and we are searching. Seek and destroy. Awesome, thank you so much. So, what did we learn here today? When we don't use sargable patterns, we make SQL Server work too hard. When you use sargability, you can make yourself look like a rock star, and we'll be searching. Seek and destroy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Judges, Alan, sure.
Overall, good job. Now, you made a lot of assumptions. So, for example, when you were saying, logical reads and scans and stuff like that, you didn't take even like 3 seconds to explain why I should care about that. So again, we in this audience generally know this, the fundamentals, but if you're at, let's say, a SQL Saturday, why do I care if I'm doing a seek versus a scan? What do logical reads mean? And you don't need to go in a 5-minute in-depth explanation, but you have to make the audience care about why it is that's important, right? And that didn't sort of come across to me. I noticed, again, in the testing, you used it looked like it was a 1024 by 768 template, and then at the very end, on your slides, it looked like you were using I've seen the past template, so I couldn't know how this goes. Like the table view, where it's sort of you used half of the available screen real estate for your text, so it looked a little compressed. So just visually, the slides probably could have been done a little better. I mean, your demos are really good. I thought the audience participation bit was great. But I think if you just developed the story a little bit, it would have been better presentation. But not a bad job at all.
So I also noticed that you used the function on the daytime. You said the more appropriate way to do this, actually the same comment as Alan here. You should have explained why. I like the green and the red boxes where you used Zoom it to make green boxes when it was correct and red boxes when it was not correct. And also good that you brought a wolf pack for the Metallica reference. Nicely done.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, I go to a lot of metal concerts, so I like that a lot. Don't let the suit fool you. Couple quick things. Back of the room check on all slides and all demos to catch white space is your enemy. You don't want to leave too much of it behind. That's just extra visibility on the floor. But the thing that was missing for me was, I love the demos. I love the yes, because I know how bad additional logical reads, order of magnitude can be. But what I didn't get was a hint of, here's the pattern to look for. Here's why this one was sargable and wasn't. I happen to know, but if I just seen this for the first time, it was about patterns, but you didn't talk about what the pattern was. Basically, predicates versus.
It's like you work on the patterns and practices team or something,
It's
Mark.
like I run that team or something.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. A little more background on that would have been nice. It's actually something we've kind of seen, I think, consistently across presentations. So anybody who's in the room who's speaking tomorrow, stories are good. When you're presenting, you're telling a story. So if you, beginning, middle, end, and have kind of a slide that says, here's what we're doing and why. And I also agree with Alan. Logical reads, you can explain it in like 3 seconds. It's worth doing. And then the other thing, which was formatting on your SQL, your queries were going across the screen, and I was losing the right side of your query. So use a SQL formatter, or that's what I do. I don't write good SQL. Lazy's good. Lazy's good, yeah. But other than that, it was really good. I like the demo. I think the results are nice. You were great with Zoom It. The audience interaction was excellent. The one other thing I think about not doing is letting Denny do your demo, because you gave up about 40 seconds of time. You were fine on time, but you gave up. I was timing you, and it took about 40 seconds to get to there, and that's more content you could have put in. Yeah.
That's fine.
It's-
Everybody else does. So
It's
cool.
always Denny's fault. Yeah, what they said, I mentioned, you kind of very, very quickly breezed through the agenda. I'm going to talk about this, and there wasn't a slide really to do any kind of setup, so that might have been nice. I definitely appreciated the Metallica reference, and the audience participation was nice, and yeah, you have a nice flow, and you seemed like you were comfortable, so good job.
Just one more thing. For the purposes of the video, why that topic? Was there something like in just day to day, you just got slammed by that thing, or you came in and had to fix like something somebody else had done?
I'm a very huge Metallica fan. I thought it would go over.
Oh no, not the Metallica though. We're totally there. but the sargability stuff, like, because more Metallica is more better. But
No, it was a mix of both. Yes, I see that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Whether it's user-defined functions, scalar functions,
Yep.
as you were saying, built-in functions. Very common
Yeah.
daily
so
thing.
lead with the story of the pain, which is why I showed up here to talk about this, because I don't want anyone else to go through this and let a little bit of that passion bleed through, because I knew there was pain and suffering behind this, and just lead with that.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, sir. Oh, so you're caught on something there. Sorry. Speakers 0, technology 2. Thanks. So we're right on par for a past summit. So our third and final contestant today is Mr. Wes Springob. So Wes started. God, I made those colors absolutely awful. Thanks, Pass, for letting me have those as options. Wes started as a classic ASP developer on SQL 2000. I already don't like you. So he started working in BI in SQL 2005 and began to redeem himself. He's now the senior BI architect at American Express. We should talk about my credit card down in Florida. His contact information is down there at the bottom, SQLWest@outlook.com. Well, can we get black corporate cards? Say on that, sir. Wait, which one are you plugged into? You're in 4. You guys keep changing the buttons on me.
Good afternoon, Speaker Idol fans. Welcome once again to Summit 2015. My name is Wes Springob, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm a really big fan of the author Douglas Adams. Anyone who knows me a little better also knows that I'm a big fan of business intelligence and reporting services. I think that's due in no small part to a large number of parallels that can be found between the works of Douglas Adams and the recurring events that happen in the life of a BI developer. Any other fans of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy here? Okay, so I got 2 judges, not enough, and a few folks out there. So hopefully you guys will get the references. So in the vein that mimicry is the most severe form of flattery, I give you the Business Intelligence Developer's Guide to Power BI. Far out in the uncharted backwaters, the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy, lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this, at a distance of roughly 92 million miles, is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive, they still think digital watches that can also be used to purchase coffee at Starbucks are a pretty neat idea. This planet has, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Most of the executives living on it were woefully uninformed about their data for pretty much of the time. Many solutions were suggested for this, but most of those were largely concerned with the movements of small green icons across the shared drive. Which was odd because on the whole, it wasn't the small green icons that were uninformed. And so the problem remained. Many of the executives were mean, and most of them were miserable, even the ones with digital watches that could also be used to purchase coffee at Starbucks. Many were increasingly of the opinion that they'd all made a big mistake in moving the data out of the warehouse and into the cloud. And some said that even the warehouse was a bad idea, and no one should have taken the data out of the operational systems. Then, one Friday, nearly 20 years after one man was endlessly berated for creating an operating system that required the user to click a button labeled Start to turn off their computer, a girl's voice, sitting in a data center in Redmond, suddenly realized what had been going wrong all this time. And she finally knew how the data could be made highly available and secure in a collaborative place. This time it was right, it would work, and no one would have to fool around with little green icons anymore. Sadly, however, before anyone could use this amazing new service, we'd all be forced to play around with it in preview for what felt like forever. This is not her story, but it is the story of that service and some of its supporting technologies. It's also the story of a website called Power BI, not an on-prem website, not published in SharePoint, and until that Friday, never seen or even heard of by anyone who hadn't attended a BI users group. Nevertheless, a wholly remarkable website. Now, at this point, you may be asking yourself, he's really built this thing up quite a bit. What's so great about Power BI? Well, it may surprise you to learn that in some of the more relaxed civilizations on the eastern spiral arm of the galaxy, Power BI has already supplanted the great Encyclopedia Excellius as the standard repository for all business intelligence and analytics. For though it contains a few omissions, and much which is apocryphal because it's so accurate, it scores over the older, more pedestrian work in two important respects. First, it is significantly cheaper. And secondly, it doesn't require any on-prem infrastructure to deploy or use. But the story of this incredibly cool Friday, the story of its extraordinary consequences, and the story of how those consequences are inextricably intertwined with this wholly remarkable website, all begins very simply. It begins with a data warehouse. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go into the rest of that this afternoon. But it would be great to chat with you guys about it later. Maybe over a bite to eat. I know a great little place called The Restaurant at the end of on-prem data. Thank you.
So you opted to go for a cultural reference that 2 out of 5 judges got, and then slammed the employer of 2 of the 5 judges.
Risky.
Oh, it gets better. Excellent.
As the co-author of the white paper for Microsoft called Implementing Power BI in a Hybrid Environment, I question the non-need for on-prem services.
Well, that was at the end of the universe.
For someone who went through that much Hitchhikers and didn't bring us towels,
I was going to carry one, but sorry.
It was really good.
Thank you.
A couple of your slides that had text, the text could have been a little bigger. That wasn't bad, but it could have been a little bigger. That's all I got.
Yeah, I thought you did a great job. I have not read the book, but I still thought it was funny anyway. So it was,
Great.
yeah, you did a nice job. Yeah, there wasn't much text. You had the pictures, but then you had the jokes about it's not all about the pretty pictures. So I got nothing. Good job.
Thank you.
That was a really cool technique, by the way, because I did totally stare back at you, and I was totally staring at your slides before.
now my only take was that wasn't a presentation, just like a trailer's not a movie. So it's great. That would have been an amazing lead up to a 60 or 75-minute presentation because you really would have hooked people in, got them off their phones, their email, and really drawn them in and set them up.
I do plan on using it again.
Yeah.
So, thank
Yeah.
you.
So as the lead up, it was great. As a 5-minute presentation, it was a trailer, and I'm like, well, now I want to see the movie.
That's why I'm here.
I kind of had the same
Yeah.
reaction, because something like that, especially when you have a story like that and the pictures, has to be well rehearsed and it's slick and it's really, and again, no problems. It all came off well, but again, I wanted to see some meat, not just the snippet, right? And the words I wrote down was because of the way it is. You almost have to really rehearse that, because if something goes wrong in your story and you start stuttering, then you could lose people, right? So sometimes, and again, as speakers, we sometimes have this. You can be almost over-rehearsed where it's smooth, but you lose a little bit of the emotion because you're just worried about making sure it's smooth, right? So it's finding that balance. The thing I would caution you on, and this is as somebody who does things that generate IP, is crediting your image sources.
Okay.
Because whether you took it off the web or whatever, people are increasingly conscious of things like that. So especially if slides get published out and they see you used a picture that was theirs, and just be careful of things like that.
Okay.
You have a representative of Getty Images in the room.
Awesome. I got nothing from Getty.
We'll contact you later.
All the prize money dedicated.
Yeah, so I've heard all the comments that I had as well. You have a really pleasant voice to listen to. You come across really natural. So really no need for all the pictures and all the practicing. If you learn how to speak like you're talking about how your holiday was instead of having it all rehearsed, that would be amazing. You have all the traits to be an amazing speaker, I think.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, judges. Now get the hell out.
I know we can.
Yeah. Joey's just making a mess. It's okay. I'm used to it. So while our judges go away, thank you very much. Thanks to all three of our contestants today. I think they all did awesome. Granted, in a few minutes, 2 of them are going to be absolutely destroyed for the rest of the evening, but that's beside the point. So who here is a presenter? About a third of the room. Okay, so about the same as yesterday. So has anybody done a 5-minute lightning talk before of the presenters? Just a couple. Okay. So for those of you who aren't presenters or have never done, or that are and have never done a 5-minute lightning talk, it is probably the most brutal presentation you can ever give, because you've literally got 300 seconds to get your point across, plus introduce yourself, which is why I tried to do that and make their lives that much simpler. And just getting that story told. The judges all talked about trying to tell a story while you're giving the presentation. That's actually really important for trying to get this point across and make things easy. Personally, I failed at that this morning because I did 45 minutes of Q&A during the middle of my session, which I thought was just awesome. I hope the audience liked it. A bunch of people told me they did, so that's good enough for me. I'm sure there'll be plenty of evals that will say that Denny lost control of the presentation and I was just having too much fun doing Q&A at 10 o'clock in the morning. But it's really hard to just get up here and do these, especially in front of people like these guys that are sitting here, and also in front of an audience like this, who have people who know the content. I know like a third of the people in this room, so I know that a lot of people in this room know a lot of the stuff they're talking about. And when you're standing in front of an audience is hard. Standing in front of an audience of subject matter experts is absolutely painful and terrifying. I remember when I was in Charlotte at SQL Saturday at Past Summit in was that 2 years ago. I was getting all set up for my presentation, and I don't know if you've noticed, but we have these fancy little ribbons on our badges, and there's this nice dark green one that stands out rather nicely amongst the rest and says Microsoft Certified Master on it. Well, when 4 people with this green ribbon come walking into your presentation room and plant their butts in the first row, you're going to have a bad day. Especially if one of them is Gail Shaw, who likes to ask very pointed questions that are extremely on topic and are very hard to answer sometimes, which she did. And I love Gail, and I wanted to kill her. So, that said, we did a poll last year at every presentation of why you came to watch the presentation, and I know it's not to watch me stand up here for 10 minutes while the judges talk. So why did you guys come to Speaker Idol instead of going to a different session here at the summit, other than the other sessions are nowhere near as cool as this one? Yeah.
I wanted to hear the judges' feedback. I'm a new speaker,
Okay.
and I wanted to pick up tips.
Cool. So her answer was she wanted to pick up some tips and get some feedback without getting up here and making an ass of herself like these guys are. Yeah.
It's a great opportunity to hear a number of speakers in a short amount of time to see different styles all in a condensed format.
So Wendy was too lazy to go to the lightning talks, so she came here instead.
No, I was at Q&A.
You were Q&A. So as Wendy said, she likes the format. You get some nice, cool presentations in a really short period of time. So the judges are laughing, and I don't see any bruises. So this means they must have come to an agreement. So do we have an answer, or do you guys need another like 45 minutes? You need more orange juice. We only brought one round of orange juice. So if I can get our three victims, contestants up here. We're sorting on God, you guys are nerds. You're actually sorting. That means I go, you go here, and I gotta go here, I think. Okay, there we go.
All right.
Alan?
So again, much like yesterday, everybody was great, and really, the difference between nobody was bad. Again, like I said yesterday, I've seen Speaker Idol Tech Ed where people were just awful. And you guys were not that. So it came down to little things of making the difference. So our runner-up is Rob, and our winner is Wes for today, this heat.
All right, so congratulations, guys. So, Wes, you've got a presentation to prep for Friday. Rob, I'm sure you've had a billion presentations that you can pull out of a bag. So we have one more initial round for round 3 tomorrow afternoon at 2. And then we've got our finals at 3:30. If finals are anything like last year, get here early. There were people sitting on the floor last year. Do make sure you submit.
You didn't get the final move to 6C?
No, I did not get the finals move to 6C.
I wonder if PAS can make that happen.
I believe there's already a session in that slot. But if we fill this room, maybe they'll have to next year. So do make sure you submit feedback to the summit on all the sessions you see at the PAS Summit. It is incredibly important that we do get feedback back. That is how PAS knows to keep picking speakers or to cut speakers, because somehow I keep getting picked every single year. There's a QR code on signage outside. Just go to PASSummit.com or get the guidebook app. Thank you all very much for coming to Speaker Idol and coming to PAS Summit. We wish Amy and her family well. Hopefully everything's okay. I'm hoping I haven't heard yet. But thank you all very much for coming, and we will see you tomorrow.